Testing, testing. One, two, three, 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 three. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this special bonus episode of Backlit Cinema, the podcast. I'm your host, Zo, that's Z-O or Z-O. If you're outside of the U.S., that's Z to the O. You know, I must admit, I am starting to get used to Z-O. I changed my mind. I really like it. As I said, thank you and welcome. And if you were on Twitter earlier, you noticed that I had put up the post saying that I was going to go see the Batman and have my impressions on that movie. I'm not going to have any spoilers. I'm just going to give you my impressions of the movie. Now, I have a feeling that most of the people in my audience have probably already seen it or probably already made up their minds whether or not they're going to see it. But still I'm here to help you out, to be your guide, to give you my own impressions of the movie. Not really a review, but more like, do you want to see it now or do you want to wait for it to come home? Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of people are hesitant because this is a nearly 3-hour movie. I myself had looked at the running time and I was like, I don't know. Now, the real question is, will you feel these 3 hours? Well, let me tell you, you will not feel the 3 hours unless on the second hour, you feel like you need to go to the bathroom. And when you feel like you have to go and take a piss at the 2-hour mark, you will feel every minute of that third hour. I'm speaking from experience. It's not like I felt like I can't wait for this movie to be over, but there was that urge. I really did have to go to the bathroom, and I had to go bad. And while I didn't want to rush the movie, I was glad that I could finally get up and go and run to the bathroom. Now, here's the thing. I didn't want to get up. So that's how good that movie was to me. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to miss a moment of it. Now, the big question that has been on everyone's mind was, could the chosen actor play Batman? Well, first, let's go through the actors, the main actors in this film. So you had Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / the Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle / the Catwoman, although they don't actually refer to her as the Catwoman, but she does refer to herself as the Cat. Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant James Gordon, Colin Farrell as Oz or the Penguin, Paul Dano as the Riddler, and they had his real name, but they don't have it in the credits on IMDb for some reason. I forgot what his real name was. It's not Edward Nygma as in like Batman the Animated Series. And I don't know what his name was in the comics. I guess it was Edward Nygma. I don't know. But in the film it was something else. John Turturro. Nope, that's not how you say his name. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, and it's funny because I've only ever seen him really as a kind of goofball or kind of I've already seen him play like a, how should I say this? Basically an underling, but in this turn he is like the main boss. He is a big boss in Gotham City, so he is a much different person. I see John Turturro as a much different person in this film than I've seen previously. Also, Andy Serkis as Alfred, Peter Sarsgaard as District Attorney Gil. Hold on, his name is cut off. Gil Colson, and you'll probably remember Skarsgård as Pennywise. So I think this is the first time I've seen him as a regular person. Barry Keoghan as the unseen Arkham prisoner, and you'll find out more about that. If you remember, Barry Keoghan played, well, he was a main character in The Eternals. and pretty much everybody else is a minor character. But I will point out Gil Perez Abraham, since he was Officer Martinez, and he was one of the prominently featured police officers in the movie, and directed by Matt Reeves. So back to the question that has been posed by many and that I had posed earlier. Can Robert Pattinson, old Sparkles himself, play the Batman? And the answer is yes, he can. He plays Batman more than he plays Bruce Wayne. In previous versions of the Batman, he basically splits himself into two different characters. He acts one way as Bruce Wayne and acts another way as the Batman, in a severe case of code switching. But in this version, there is no code switching. He's basically the same as Batman and Bruce Wayne. He doesn't even change his voice. This is the first time that Bruce Wayne / Batman does not change his voice since the first major Batman movie, 1989 Batman. And that was, I've forgotten his name already. Oh, well. Anyways, yeah, since the 1989 Batman, Michael Keaton didn't change his voice. And I think in the Tim Burton films, that hasn't happened. But then when the Christopher Nolan films came, that's when Batman started to change his voice. And actually, that actually started in the animated series, the voice changing. So, yeah, absolutely. He is very, his stature helps him out a lot. And his acting is very different from the other interpretations. So in this version, the Batman moves very slow and very methodical, and he almost has Jason Voorhees quality to him. After all, he is supposed to inspire fear, and from his perspective, not just criminals, but everyone. All the characters have really nice character arcs. As I said, it's even though the movie is 3 hours long, you really don't feel it. The movie moves along quite nicely. There are a lot of things that are happening in this movie. I feel like I need to watch it again just to catch everything. Some of the things that I miss. You've heard this described as a detective movie, and this is a very detective movie. I mean, this is deeper than Sherlock Holmes detective movie. It's got a lot of elements in it. It's almost like a detective movie where the main detective basically dresses up in a costume. That's how deep it goes. As a mystery movie, it's better than, well, it's more of a detective movie than a mystery movie because the audience already knows the answers to the questions that the main character is trying to solve. It's not a mystery as in Death on the Nile, Death on the Nile that me and Zach saw earlier a few weeks ago. In that movie, both the audience and the detective is supposed to be in the dark as to who the culprit is, but the way the movie was carried out, you kind of knew who the bad guy was in that movie from the beginning. But in the Batman, you kind of already know. So you're basically watching the main characters try to figure out what's going on. But it has a deep film noir look to it, a film noir feel to it, and it does it very well. The colors are muted. The actors are moving almost in slow motion in some scenes, and then in other scenes it moves pretty quickly. So it's great seeing Batman as a detective in a detective movie, solving crimes and riddles and whatnot. And there's plenty of action to go around. Everybody's like fighting at a moment's notice. There's some shocking violence at some points of the movie. That the great car chase that you've seen in the trailers, it had most of the things that you're looking for in a detective movie, and in this case where a detective dresses like a bat and has all of James Bond's gadget without being a womanizer like James Bond, and not like goofy gadgets. Like most of these gadgets are believable. Like you can see these gadgets coming in the near future, or you can imagine how someone would have these gadgets. It's not like he all of a sudden has bat skates or has bat shark repellent. You're not going to see none of that. But most of the gadgets we've basically seen in earlier Batman films. So should you see it? Yeah, I think so. Everybody is great in this movie. Zoe Kravitz is great. Jeffrey Wright is great. Colin Farrell is the standout actor in this movie. As like, you already know from the trailers that he is unrecognizable, and his acting is just jacked up to 11 in this movie. Not in a hammy sort of way, but more like how he puts himself in the character in a way that like a method actor would put themselves in the character, where they're living as the character. I can't imagine how many hours he had to stay in the makeup chair, or how early he had to get to set in order to apply the makeup to transform him into the Penguin, because he, like I said, he's unrecognizable. His voice is unrecognizable. His whatever American accent that he cobbled together sounds extremely believable. Maybe a little exaggerated at times, but it's a delight to see him, because it's like you forget who's playing him when you're watching this movie. Also, the movie was great. It had some notes. I feel like I could hear some elements of earlier compositions. So there were elements that I thought I could hear from the original Batman theme by Paul. What's his name? I forget. But the original Batman theme from 1989, and then I felt like I could hear some elements from the Christopher Nolan films, and this was crafted by Michael Giacchino. I never actually pronounced his name, and I don't believe I've heard it pronounced by someone. But Michael Giacchino, he's written many of the things, and I felt like he's written one of the earlier films. I can't remember. I should have did a little bit more research before I started, but I didn't. I usually just switch on IMDb and start talking. And yeah, so I thought it was a good movie. It's a good mystery. It's been a while since I've seen a good mystery film, and that's what this is. With enough action to authenticate it as a superhero movie, let's say, but it does not follow the traditional superhero formula. It basically it's much more grounded than earlier Batman movies or any of the current superhero movies. And what's funny is that it feels like with every iteration of Batman, they try to make the character more and more grounded in reality, as if such a person could possibly exist. So it kind of started with Michael Keaton and Tim Burton in 1989, and then kind of fell off in the later films with the Joel Schumacher vision, but then it kind of got way more grounded again with Christopher Nolan, and then in this version it's even more grounded. The city looks like even more real than than in previous versions. It basically looks like a dark version of New York. They even have a version of Times Square in Gotham City. And yeah, it was a delightful film. I encourage you to go see it. It's good. It makes good theater, I guess. Oh, hold on. While I'm on IMDb and I'm clicking buttons and whatnot, hopefully the mic isn't picking it up. I'm going to see if I can find I can't speak anymore. The composer, because I feel like it's the same Michael Giacchini, or however you say his name. Nope, it's Hans Zimmer. Okay, my bad. So there are also elements of the Joker in this movie. And when I say the Joker, I mean the Joker movie, or I think it's just called Joker. So I'm referring to the movie Joker that starred Joaquin Phoenix. So this movie had elements of that movie. And I like that this movie answers the question, where do super criminals get their henchmen? I love how this movie answers the question because it takes it from how we are living today. And I think one of the greatest things about art is that they take things that are happening in our society today and it reflects back upon us. And you see it and it kind of spits in your face. It's almost heavy-handed and almost like holding a mirror. It's like, or it's like your father, like you did something bad and your father brings you to a mirror and say, this is what you look like. See, you look foolish. This is what you look like. And that is what the movie does. This is what you look like. You look foolish. This is you all day and every day. And he's talking to the audience. So, where do bad guys get their henchmen? This movie answers the question. And that's where I meant by, cause this is the Joker kind of used the same methodology of where henchmen comes from. So that's one thing. And, I think that's all I got, but, yeah, I think that it's a great movie, especially if you love this character, if you love superhero movies, if you love the franchise, if you love detective movies, if you love I wouldn't even call it a slow burn, but for some people it might be, but it was thrilling to see a great Batman movie. Is Pattinson the best Batman? I think that's for you to decide. You go and watch this movie and decide if he's the best Batman. To me, they all have their great qualities, and I would look at each of them differently for something different that I want from them. I can't decide right now who is the best Batman. They're like my children, and I love them all equally. The last thing I'll put down is that this is the first movie that I've seen. It probably happened in earlier movies. I don't know, but this is the first movie that I've seen that prominently features Bill Finger as one of the co-creators of Batman. As you may not know, Batman has often been credited to Bob Kane and Bob Kane alone, but Bob Kane did not create the character by himself. It was the artist Bill Finger that basically created the image of the Batman that we have in our minds. Because if it weren't for Bill Finger, then the character would have looked way different. He would have had a completely different demeanor. He would not, I don't think, we wouldn't be talking about Batman today had it not been for Bill Finger. But I think maybe Bill Finger was probably credited in Batman versus Superman and the Justice League and some of those earlier movies. I'm not sure, but it was so prominent in this movie where it's like you couldn't miss it. It's like he's right there as along with Bob Kane. So I thought that was awesome. Finally given his proper credit. So this episode is already gone way too long. It's just supposed to be a quickie, and I want to leave you with that. It's a good movie. I enjoyed myself. Zach enjoyed himself. So go check it out right now. It's worth it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the flip side. Be outstanding.